I never thought moving into Oakwood Estates would turn into an all-out war with the most entitled neighbor I've ever met. On paper, the neighborhood was perfect. I'm talking well-kept homes, a community pool, and reasonable HOA fees. But the realtor conveniently forgot to mention one tiny detail. The HOA was run by Karen Wilkins. She was a woman in her 50s with that classic highlighted blonde, "I need to speak to your manager" haircut. My troubles started just 3 weeks after moving in. I decided to plant native wildflowers in my front yard. They're great for attracting butterflies and conserving water, and I'm a big nature person. Plus, I did my homework. I triple-checked the HOA bylaws, and everything was perfectly within the rules. But then, at 7:30 a.m. on a Saturday, my doorbell rang. There she was, clipboard in hand, wearing a neon yellow vest that proudly read HOA President across the chest. "Those weeds need to be removed immediately," she said. Her smile was tight, but her eyes were cold. "The HOA has strict landscaping rules." I stayed calm. "They're not weeds," I replied. "They're native wildflowers, and they're actually approved under Section 4.3 of the bylaws. They're drought-resistant and help local pollinators." Karen's smile flickered. "Well, they look like weeds to me, and as president, I have the final say. Remove them by Monday, or you'll be fined $100 per day." She slapped a violation notice into my hand and marched off, her white sneakers clicking on the sidewalk. I didn't touch a single flower. Instead, I emailed the entire HOA board. I sent photos of my garden and highlighted the exact bylaw that allowed native plants. I even copied Karen on the email. I never got a response, but more importantly, the fine never came. Round 1 went to me. But Karen wasn't finished, not by a long shot. Over the next 2 months, the violation notices kept coming. My trash can was visible for too long. My garage door was open improperly while I worked on my car. She even wrote me up for the color of my garden hose. Each time, I calmly replied with the relevant bylaw. Each time, Karen got more and more frustrated. One evening, she caught me at my mailbox. "You think you're so clever," she sneered. "Quoting bylaws doesn't mean you belong here. Some of us have standards." I just smiled politely. "I appreciate your dedication to the neighborhood, Karen. Have a great evening." It was obvious her problem wasn't about the rules. It was personal. Then things took a much darker turn. As a remote software developer, I get a lot of packages and important documents delivered. I started noticing that some of my mail just wasn't showing up. At first, I figured it was just postal delays, but then my neighbor Jeff pulled me aside. "Hey, I saw Karen at your mailbox yesterday," he said. She had a mail forwarding form in her hand and was looking around like she didn't want to be seen. My stomach dropped. The next day, I called the post office. Sure enough, a mail forwarding request had been submitted in my name, redirecting all my mail to an address I didn't recognize. A quick property search confirmed my worst fear. The address belonged to Karen. "This is a federal offense," the postal worker told me, his voice grim. "Mail fraud and theft are serious crimes. Would you like to file a formal complaint?" I thought about everything she had put me through. I thought about the expensive graphics card for a work project that never arrived. I thought about the credit card statement I never got, which led to a late fee. "Yes," I said firmly, "I want to file a complaint." The postal inspectors took it very seriously. They explained that mail fraud could lead to up to 5 years in federal prison and fines up to $250,000. I wasn't expecting her to get the maximum penalty, but I knew this was huge. 2 days later, I was working from home when I heard a commotion. I looked out my window and saw the postal inspectors and a local police officer walking right up to Karen's front door. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I watched her face go from confusion to indignation, and finally, to pure, raw fear. She started gesturing wildly, pointing at my house, and then disappeared inside with the officials. The war was over, and it was clear who had won. Thanks for watching. If you've had your own nightmare neighbor stories, Share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. That evening, the HOA vice president, a reasonable man named Michael, called an emergency board meeting for all residents. I decided to go, taking a seat quietly at the back of the community center. Michael stood at the front and addressed the packed room. He chose his words very carefully, saying, "It has come to the board's attention that our president has been involved in activities that do not reflect the values of our community." He paused for a moment, letting that sink in. Karen Wilkins has been temporarily removed from her position pending an investigation into alleged mail tampering, which, as many of you know, is a federal offense. The entire room started buzzing with murmurs and whispers. Karen wasn't there, but her husband was, sitting in the corner, just staring at the floor with this absolutely mortified expression on his face. Michael continued, "The board wishes to apologize to the affected resident and assures the community that we are cooperating fully with authorities. We will also review all recent violation notices issued by Ms. Wilkins to ensure they were legitimate and aligned with our bylaws." He was basically telling everyone that they were going to undo all of Karen's crazy rules. After the meeting, a bunch of my neighbors came up to me to show their support. It was then that I realized I wasn't the only one she had been targeting. It turns out, Karen had been terrorizing the whole neighborhood for years. She used her position to settle personal scores and made up rules that didn't even exist in the bylaws. People told me stories about getting fined for having the wrong shade of curtains or for their kids' chalk drawings on the sidewalk. It was insane. About 3 weeks later, I got a certified letter in the mail. It was from the district attorney's office. The letter explained that Karen had been officially charged with mail fraud, which is a felony. She was facing up to 3 years of probation and a $5,000 fine. And, of course, she was permanently banned from ever serving on the HOA board again. The best part, the letter also said a significant amount of my mail had been recovered from her house. My graphics card was there, along with several personal letters that I never even knew were missing. The day after the charges were announced publicly, I had one final encounter with Karen. I was at the local grocery store, just minding my own business, when I saw her. The once proud, intimidating HOA president now looked small. Her shoulders were hunched, and she had this haunted look in her eyes. She spotted me from across the cereal aisle and just froze. I saw the recognition, then the anger. She walked over, her voice low and filled with venom. "You've ruined my life," she hissed. I calmly placed a box of cereal into my cart before looking her straight in the eye. "I didn't ruin your life, Karen," I replied. "You committed a federal crime. There are consequences for that. Just like there are consequences for having wildflowers in your yard. Except, you know, one of those is actually against the law." Her face turned bright red. For the very first time, she had absolutely no comeback. There were no bylaws to quote, no authority to hide behind. She just stood there, speechless, as the reality of her actions finally hit her. Without another word, she abandoned her shopping cart right there in the middle of the aisle and hurried toward the exit, leaving behind her life as the most feared person in Oakwood Estates. And just like that, the reign of terror was over. The wildflowers in my yard have never looked better. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.